at him, Karen. Mark. Thank you, my friend. Good to see you. Great. Guys. Hey, right. God bless. God bless.
We love you, Karen. We love you, Karen.
Karen, did you think you're gonna get a fair trial? Stand tall.
Karen Reed was framed. Her car never struck John O'Keefe. She did not cause his death. And that means that somebody else did. You will learn that it was no accident that John O'Keefe was found dead on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road in Canton on January 29th of 2022. You will learn that at that address lived a well-known and well-connected law enforcement family in Canton, the Alberts. Because the Alberts were involved, and because they had close connections to the investigators in this case, Karen Reed was framed for a murder she did not commit. Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. As I previously told you, my name is David Yannetti. I'm an attorney with an office in Boston. Together with attorneys Alan Jackson and Elizabeth Little, it is truly my privilege and my honor to represent Karen Reed during this trial. From a very early juncture in this case, you will question the Commonwealth's theory of the case. You will question the quality of the Commonwealth's evidence. You will question the veracity of the Commonwealth's witnesses. And you will question their shoddy and biased investigation, a faulty investigation that led to Karen Reed sitting here today. You will learn, in short, that the police did no real investigation of this case, and you will question why. You'll question why the investigators had such tunnel vision. You will question why they focused solely on Karen Reed, someone with no ties to the Canton Police Department, as opposed to the well-known and well-connected Albert family of Canton, a family that was never treated as suspects by the investigators in this case. Boston police officer John O'Keefe was found mortally injured on Brian Albert's front lawn. His body was in full view and almost right below Brian Albert's bedroom window on his front lawn. He was found wearing only one sneaker. You'll learn that Brian Albert was a Boston police officer as well, and that he was a trained first responder. Brian Albert was notified that another police officer was injured and unresponsive on his front lawn, and Brian Albert did nothing. His sister-in-law, Jennifer McCabe, and other civilians were on his property that morning after John O'Keefe's body was found. Police, EMTs, firefighters, police cruisers, an ambulance, fire truck, lights flashing, and first responder Brian Albert never came out of his house. Equally important for you will be the fact that the lead homicide investigators never went inside the Albert home that morning. You'll learn that Brian Albert's brother, Kevin Albert, is a Canton police officer. It was obvious very early on that the Canton police should not be investigating the death of a man found on the property of the brother of a Canton police officer. So it was decided just about from the start that the Massachusetts State Police should take complete control of this investigation because the Canton police were conflicted out. Now, that sounded good at the time, but you'll learn that two major problems arose. First, despite the fact that they obviously had a conflict of interest, the evidence will show that the Canton police still had their hands in this investigation. You will find it astounding, but Canton police officer Kevin Albert, the reason for the conflict of interest in the first place, was continually updated about the status of this investigation while it was going on. Second, and equally troubling, is that the lead state police detective who was assigned to this case was a man named Michael Proctor. Michael Proctor, you will learn, is one of the many people in Canton with deep ties to the Albert family. Michael Proctor's own mother refers to the Alberts as the Proctor's second family. His own sister's wedding, Michael Proctor was in the wedding party with Colin Albert. And he sat at the head table of that wedding with members of the Albert family. That's the man who was chosen to lead the investigation into the suspicious death on the property of Brian Albert. That's the man who gave updates to Canton police officer Kevin Albert, while the state police were supposed to be investigating what had occurred at his brother Brian Albert's house. You'll learn that right from the jump, Michael Proctor predetermined the outcome of this case. Never stepped foot inside the Albert home on January 29th, 2022. Never checked out whether there were any signs of struggle inside that home. He never called for crime scene technicians and other specialists to look for blood or other trace evidence within the home. He never asked Brian Albert for permission to go in the home and take a look around. Michael Proctor never applied for a search warrant to go in that home. Instead, he focused immediately and exclusively on Karen Reed, the outsider. You will learn that no one in the Proctor family has ever called the Reed family their second family. No one in the Proctor family had been in a wedding party with anyone from the Reed family. Karen Reed was a convenient outsider. She was most definitely not from Canton. So how did Michael Proctor feel about her? How did he treat somebody he was investigating at a point in time when he should have been keeping an open mind and focusing on obtaining all possible evidence so that he didn't miss anything? Well, you will learn that on the very day that John O'Keefe was found dead on Brian Albert's lawn, Michael Proctor was texting with his high school buddies about this supposedly secret investigation using his personal cell phone. He was revealing information about this investigation to his friends, assuming that nobody would ever find out what he was doing and what he was saying. And he was revealing his true thoughts about Karen Reed to his friends, not what he put in his sanitized police reports, his true feelings to his friends whom he trusted, and in text messages that he never thought would come into the hands of the defense in this case. Lead investigator Trooper Michael Proctor, right from the start, called Karen Reed names you would reserve only for your worst enemies. He told his friends that he hoped that she would kill herself. He told his friends that he had seized her cell phone. And you will learn that he knew he shouldn't have been accessing any content on her cell phone because he knew there would likely be attorney-client communications on between Karen and me at that time. He knew that he was supposed to wait for a search warrant or other permission from a judge in order to go through that phone. But you'll learn that he went through the phone anyway, without permission. And you'll know that he did because he told his high school buddies that he was searching her phone for nude photos of Karen Reed. And he was disappointed he hadn't found any yet. That is the professional and unbiased investigator who was chosen to lead
an investigating officer searching a female defendant's phone for nudes. Like, Emily, are you going to be able to move on from that? Nope. Nope, probably not. Nope, probably not. Nope, probably not. Nope, probably not. Probably not going to be able to move on from it. Because seriously. But they're trying to show that this investigation was biased from the beginning. And while the nudes are something that I am absolutely disgusted by, and I'm not going to be able to move past,
We'll learn that one of Michael Proctor's high school friends commented to him that with a dead body on the front lawn, the homeowner in this case is surely going to catch a lot of grief. And do you know what Michael Proctor's response to that was? One word. Nope. And he explained why. Michael Proctor assured his buddies that the homeowner would not catch a lot of grief because, quote, the homeowner's a Boston cop too, end quote. That one sentence, ladies and gentlemen, in Michael Proctor's own words, will explain a lot to you about how this investigation was conducted. You will be able to evaluate whether Trooper Michael Proctor treated Brian Albert and his family differently because of who they are and their relationships between his family and theirs. You will evaluate whether this investigation was on the up and up. You will decide, as a result, how valuable or worthless the prosecution's DNA evidence is or is not, in light of who controlled that evidence. You will learn that Michael Proctor's fingerprints are figuratively all over this case. His fingerprints are all over the Commonwealth's evidence. You will learn that Michael Proctor showed up at Karen Reed's parents' house in Dighton to interview her during the afternoon of January 29th, only hours after John O'Keefe's body was found dead on Brian Albert's front lawn. You'll learn that Michael Proctor had her Lexus SUV towed from her parents' home. But you'll also learn that he wrote a search warrant in which he falsified the time that he took that SUV. He swore under oath that the vehicle wasn't towed until 5:30 p.m. But you'll learn that we obtained surveillance footage that he didn't know we would get. And that surveillance footage exposed that Michael Proctor's words in that sworn affidavit were a lie. Michael Proctor had that vehicle for about 90 minutes before he claimed to have taken it. And folks, you will learn that the timing is important, very important.
The judge is letting him say all this in opening statement, okay? In order to do this, you have to have a reasonable belief and a reasonable basis to do this. So I'm guessing he does. And if he's going to prove that Proctor lied on an affidavit about when they towed her car, the house starts to crumble as you remove brick by brick. And if you can take out the foundation, which is the lead investigator in the investigation, it's pretty hard for the state to build that house. And I'm not even going to say, like, with these types of facts, right? One thing, cover up. Somebody else did it and pinned it on her. Fine. That sounds like a movie. Maybe they can prove it, maybe they can't. But when you come over to this side, where it's like, this guy said he's not even going to investigate this person because he's a Boston cop. He's at the head table at the wedding. He's part of the family. He's the reason the conflict is. He's looking at her phone for nudes. He's lying about towing cars and searching stuff and affidavits. That's reasonable doubt to me. So regardless of if they prove the wild story, this is the juice of a real criminal defense strategy. How can we trust this investigation? How can we trust this investigator? How can we trust these officers?
But what I saw from the 18,000 of you in the chat when the defense opening started is all of you went, what now? What now? After the prosecution, you know what this chat was saying? I'm lost. What did he say? What did he mean? What did she say? Who, what? And when the defense started, all of you went, I'm awake. What? You said, what now? You said he did what now? No. And then I saw all of the motions for code red. All of you went, you said what now? And what the jury doesn't know that we know is that there is a federal investigation into this entire prosecution. And maybe now it's a little bit more clear why. Because I didn't dig into it very deeply. Why? Because I wanted to go into this case as a juror. And when I went into this case as a juror, for all of you who went into this case not knowing what was happening in this case, are you just like, what did he just say? Because that's where I'm at right now. I have questions. And I am so glad I came into this case with the briefest of overviews because I didn't know what the state's theory, what the Commonwealth's theory was by the end of their closing. But you know what I know real well? What the defense is saying happened. And I am stunned. I am stunned. How did they get to Trooper Proctor's personal cell phone? What did they learn? And I know they didn't even get into everything. I am absolutely stunned by the defense's opening. That was a fantastic opening statement. And I think it left all of you with quite a lot of questions. I'll put up a poll in a minute. We're going to get to some Q&A. I can't with this fan. I'm so invested in this case. I'm so invested in this case. How is the state going to prove this? Like the fact that everyone left the house from the party that night and didn't see a 6'2" man dressed in dark clothes, because we're going to see video of what the victim was wearing earlier in the night, didn't see him and do anything. And the fact that a fellow law enforcement officer was notified that there was a officer down in his yard and did nothing. Those two facts, those two things are telling. Very, very telling to me. So we'll see. All right. Let's get into your questions. That was fucking wild. But I think their theory, I highlighted it. This is what I think the defense theory of the case is. Don't ask me what the theory of the case is for the prosecution. I don't know. I made a note that said the defense had a great timeline because they backed up the timeline to conversations that were not disclosed, to a Google search that was deleted, to the fact that the tow truck driver didn't, or the snowplow driver didn't see anybody. The defense did a great timeline. What else did I note? Where did I took a lot more notes during the defense opening than the state opening because I couldn't even follow what the state was saying. But what they called Karen Reed was a convenient outsider. And I think that's what we're going to see their theory of the case develop into, is that Karen Reed has been framed, that's the word they used, because she is a convenient outsider. I'm hearing noise.
Wow. So we heard from the state, they found more pieces and they were able to put those pieces back together and they all lined up with the light. Now we find out that they only found the additional pieces after Proctor, who lied on an affidavit, had possession of Karen Reed's car, ipso facto, had possession of the tail light and the plastic/glass from the tail light. That's when they found additional pieces of glass or plastic, whatever it is on the light. I just can't buy that if I'm a jury. Like that, all that evidence is like fruit of the poisonous tree. If I was a judge, I'd almost say we got to cut it out.
People, it's over. Elvis has left the building. It's done. Over.